The next hand I have here is versus Duck Hunt 11, and I'm not really sure if he's a regular or not, but definitely seen him playing, and I have played him quite a bit more so than my HUD stats say. So I do have some sort of reads on him, and my general read on his play is that he is extremely aggressive player, extremely loose, but at the same time a little on the spewy side. I'm not sure if he's a winning player or not, but definitely he can put you in a couple of tough decisions because he is quite aggressive. So on this hand, I have King 10 offsuit on the button and min raise it. I think it's completely standard, and he decides to 3-bet. And the notable thing here is his 3-bet size. He makes it 280 over just an 80 open. So it's quite a large 3-bet. I think most players here, their standard is about 200 to 240, and 280 is definitely large for this kind of stack size because it is going to be committing a large portion of our stack pre-flop. Now, when Duck Hunt 11 makes his 3-bet this sizing, I really think his range changes quite a bit in the sense that he really is wanting us to just 4-bet and get it in here. So a lot of the hands he's going to have is going to be ace-x type hands as well as low pocket pairs. I don't see him making this kind of sizing with a hand like king-queen or king-jack, and I think only ace-10 and ace-king are the only hands that really were in trouble against. Versus everything else, I think we have quite a bit of equity. So because of that, even with this awkward stack sizes, I do decide to actually flat his big 3-bet here. So the flop comes ace-jack 10 rainbow, and it's actually a pretty good flop for us. We flop bottom pair with the best kicker possible as well as a gut shot draw, and I expect to be in half decent shape versus a large percentage of his range because I do think he's got a lot of low pocket pairs in his range. The ace-x hands that he does 3-bet here do hit this flop quite hard. He could definitely have ace-jack and ace-10, even though we do have a blocker to ace-10, and ace-king, which we also have a blocker to. If he bets huge here, it really puts us in a really awkward spot, and definitely could consider shoving or folding over a big bet here because we are going to have quite a bit of equity versus really anything he has. But Duck Hunt thinks for a second and then he bets 120 into 560, and I think this is a really interesting size of bet, and I really think that his bet sizing here in this hand is a mistake. I didn't feel that Duck Hunt here is the type of player who's going to be betting small here to induce, because there's really not that many hands that you're going to induce at this kind of stack depth. I guess it would be kind of like the type of hand that we have would just say, you know what, we have great equity, this bet looks ridiculous, I'm just going to shove over. But I think he's going to be making this size of bet as well with all of his bluffs or his hands that he would prefer to end it. Just hands like deuces through to nines. I think he's going to make this bet just thinking, you know, this flop smokes his 3-betting range, and I'm just going to give up a very high percentage of time, even with this very small bet. Now, I think the mistake that Duck Hunt does make in this hand is that if he did have a big hand here, if he did have, you know, ace-jack, ace-10, any ace-x, or anything strong here, I think he would be betting a little bit bigger, because unless he flopped the nuts, which is extremely unlikely given his 3-bet sizing, it's going to be a little bit of a scary board for a lot of his hands that do hit this, because there's a lot of gut shot draws, there's a lot of pair and gut shots that I can have. So I think if he just wanted to get it in here, he'd probably bet at least 200, 250, because it's going to set up a really easy jam for me. So this small sizing, I think, is actually weighted more towards bluff in this spot because I don't give him credit for a small bet here, kind of inducing with an ace-x hand very often. So I elect to flat. Turn comes a deuce, complete blank, and it's a very hard spot. If he does have ace-x here, I think now he's probably just going to jam. He's got about a pot-sized bet left, and he's going to just wanted to get us off of our jack-x or 10x that peeled the flop. But I think he makes a very interesting bet here with the exact same bet, 160 now into 800. So we're getting a ridiculous price here, which, well, it does seem like maybe a fish logic to just look at the price here and instantly click call, knowing that there's an extremely high likelihood that he's going to be shoving the river. But at the same time, I do think that he is going to be barreling here some amount of the time because there is virtually no ace-x in our range, and almost every hand we have here is going to be quite weak. And with this sizing, it does look like he's going to be shoving the river a very high percentage of the time. So if we have a hand like what we have, if we're not thinking this hand through very clearly, we may even consider a fold here, just knowing that it's going to be just a terrible spot on the river. But given that we do likely have two pair outs if we are behind, as well as gut shot draw to the nuts, for this kind of sizing, I don't think we can ever fold. But at the same time, I don't think that we have enough equity to jam here. We're just really hoping that he's has complete air, or he's turning a small pair into a bluff, or maybe he has some sort of draw, like a queen 9 suited that he decided to play extremely aggressively pre-flop. Although I think that we can take a lot of hands like that out just because of his super large 3-bet sizing. So I elect to flat again on this turn and reevaluate on the river. So river comes another deuce, and I think that this is a very interesting card here actually, because all draws miss, almost every ace-x is chopping, and when he shoves this river, he's really going to be quite polarized into, you know, ace-x or air. And Duck Hunt does go ahead and shove here, and I think at this point it's actually quite an easy decision to call, because I think the big mistake he makes in this hand that really reveals it is his flop c-bet sizing. I don't think that this player is good enough to be betting that small with an inducing bet with ace-x on the flop. So when he jams this river here, I think it's extremely likely that we are ahead here, given his bet sizing on earlier streets. So I go ahead and I call pretty quickly. And he shows up with pocket sevens, which I don't really love the way he played. I think he, versus my opening range here, he probably should have just jammed this hand pre-flop. But the way he did play it, I think he's just got to bet bigger on the flop and really put us to the test there instead of really trying to get us off on later streets. I think this hand is somewhat standard, given that his c-bet sizing is just kind of face up, and allows us to make a fairly easier decision just because of his sizing. So I'm going to call it there for this video. Thank you for watching. I hope I was helpful, and please let me know if you have any questions.